leaders from
exploration companies which have been proposed gas pipeline.
Voices in Brussels who are saying, let's cut Turkey in, let's create a situation.
Experts have known for some time that there are huge deposits of natural gas in the eastern Mediterranean. But Benjamin Netanyahu says the find will be a huge boost.
The eastern Mediterranean is not only a strategic area for its countries, it also remains a region of critical importance for the world's superpowers.
The U.S. is a recent natural gas exporter as a result of the Iraqi Revolution. So now they are exporting gas, and Europe is a primary customer. So U.S. interests in the Eastern Med cannot be viewed solely in regards to gas. There's also the inextricable geopolitical component.
Russia's hard bargaining has once again
the U.S. has for many decades viewed the Eastern Med as what it called a strategic anchor. It's in a geopolitically critical spot with North Africa to the south, the Middle East to the east, and Russia to the north. To an extent, the United States would like to find ways to work with Turkey and to be more inclusive. I think the United States and its allies should view this Eastern Med pipeline as an opportunity to bring allies closer together.
However small, could lead to disaster.
That both Greece and Turkey claim as their own.
Regardless of the US efforts to strengthen the cooperation between the Mediterranean countries, Greece and Turkey, two NATO allies, still have significant long-lasting disagreements.
As far as Greece and Turkey is concerned, I would start from the premise that we are prisoners of geography. In other words, Greece and Turkey have no other option but to find ways to cooperate, to establish a cooperative regime, say, on both sides of the Aegean.
At the heart of the conflict are the maritime borders laid out in the 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea.
Far from the Turkish coast, but a maritime...
While 167 countries and the European Union are signatories, Israel, Lebanon, Syria and Turkey never ratified the agreement. And while Greece argues that islands have their own continental shelves, Turkey counters by saying that the continental shelf should be delimited by taking into consideration the Greek and the Turkish mainland and not only the islands. In order to discuss the maritime differences and more points of the Greek-Turkish agenda, in 2017, President Erdogan made a landmark visit to Athens.
In 2017, we had President Erdogan here in Athens.
President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is visiting Greece for 2 days.
I think that to have sincerity in the exchange of very much known, after all, diverse and opposite positions of the two countries is not harmful.
President Erdogan has told the Greek media negative relations between the two
What we are saying to our friends in Turkey, and I deeply believe in the friendship between the Turkish and the Greek people, is that we must settle our difference regarding the maritime economic zones through law. If we cannot agree, we should send this case to the International Court of Hague.
What Turkey claims is that, due to the special configuration of the Aegean Sea, if the international laws were mechanically applied, then the Aegean Sea would become a Greek lake and the South Turkish coast would be under Greek control with monopoly on exploiting the gas reserves. And while Greece wishes to increase its territorial waters off its islands from 6 to 12 nautical miles under UNCLOS, Turkey is not aiming for territorial conquest, but wants to protect its interest, taking into account its geographical position, size and population in the region.
We know that you cannot 100% see things in international law, but you should also take into consideration things like equity, a sense of justice to be in the arithmetic.
Behind the scenes, some European capitals feel they have been prisoners of the long-standing conflicts between Greece, Cyprus and Turkey, and recognise that Turkey is an essential pillar of the European Union.
When it comes specifically to Turkey, that we have discussions with Cyprus, we have discussions with Greece.
But the same we are doing with Turkey. We go to Turkey, we talk to Turkish partners, try to get their point of view and see, okay, so what's the irritation? We are engaged with Turkey on so many levels. It's economic cooperation, it's also political cooperation, it's defense cooperation. Turkey is a member of NATO as well, so we are bound with so many links that we cannot just destroy these links. But I would disagree with the notion that EU is excluding Turkey from something.
President Erdogan is holding talks today with Angela Merkel.
When you mentioned the pipeline, this is not something imposed by the EU, it's a decision by the countries involved. But these are decisions that are taken in specific context by specific actors. And as I said, this is not really something for the EU to decide because it's not really the EU competence.
In the list of the European countries that appear hesitant about the project's cost and construction is also Italy, a key player of the EastMed pipeline.
Quindi un progetto come quello del gasdotto EastMed oggi sia considerato un po' obsoleto. L'Italia ha sì all'inizio appoggiato il progetto, ma ha capito forse in anticipo che aveva forse uno scopo ben preciso, soprattutto di Grecia e Cipro in particolare, di continuare a lasciare la Turchia fuori dai giochi. L'Italia si è trovata a indugiare sulla firma, sulla ratifica dell'accordo per il gasdotto EastMed, perché ha capito in qualche modo che con la Turchia era necessario un dialogo, soprattutto per quanto riguardava i propri interessi nazionali. Oggi la Turchia è presente in Tripolitania, il che vuol dire che è presente al confine con l'Italia.
In January 2020, Libya's UN-recognized government of national accord requested that Turkey back the political process to end the country's second civil war.
Ankara recently signed with the UN-recognized GNA in Libya a maritime delimitation. This would make the current plot of the EastMed pipeline impossible.
When you look at the map, the EastMed will cross the Turkish-Libyan economic zone. The project is not sure of its own geography. So that's why the project is so uncertain.
Turkish president has just started a meeting with Libyan Prime Minister Fayez al-Sarraj.
Alors c'est un accord qui a été signé en 2019 entre les deux pays. C'est un accord qui porte surtout sur l'exploitation des richesses de la mer pour le gaz et puis du pétrole. C'est un accord qui est tout à fait... Je ne vois pas pourquoi tout le monde passe son temps à passer des accords. Je ne vois pas pourquoi la Turquie n'aurait pas le droit de passer des accords avec la Libye. Monsieur Sarraj est le représentant légal reconnu par la communauté internationale, par l'ONU, par tout ce que l'on veut, comme de la Libye. Ce projet d'EastMed est très dangereux parce que c'est une arme de guerre contre la Turquie, je le répète, et qu'il n'est pas du tout dans l'intérêt des riverains de la Méditerranée.
Despite the fact that the EastMed pipeline project is proposed since 2016, until today the needed funds for its implementation are not ensured.
In 2017, we gathered in Tel Aviv the energy ministers of Italy, Greece, Cyprus and Israel. I hosted them. And we signed an umbrella memorandum that will pave the way to this project to proceed.
Especially, it's very expensive. It could get to about...
This idea was in 2016. No movement has been done except for signing some contracts and MOUs and signing maps and big hoopla of politics and politicians signing all kinds of things. But feasibility study that was promised is not yet complete. The EU hasn't actually endorsed this project, even though some ministers in the region talk about EU as supporting the project. They've agreed to do a feasibility study. That's a big difference. But what's important is, for none of them was this really economic and commercial and corporate. It was being driven by politics. When you're doing multi-billion-dollar commercial deals, they should be driven by the commercial side, not by the politics. The politics should support it, but they shouldn't drive.
in an attempt to further boost the EastMed pipeline and encourage investors. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo joined the 6th trilateral meeting between Israel, Greece and Cyprus, again leaving Turkey out of the discussions.
Under the Obama administration and the heavy support from then Vice President Biden, we took no position on the pipeline. During the Trump administration, the U.S. acted a little bit more commercially, but still, I don't see the need for the United States to come in and support this project.
Secretary Pompeo came with a promise of U.S. financial support.
Prime Minister, thank you for hosting us here in Jerusalem. You don't know, but about a week ago, I spoke in Houston, Texas, to a big group of energy leaders from all around the world talking about opportunities and projects just like this.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you all. Thank you.
Commercial viability is challenging.
But the support never arrived.
Feasibility of the EastMed pipeline.
Still, somebody from the private sector, some big company, should invest here between $5 and $6 billion in order to build this project, and I hope that it will take place soon.
An estimated $7 billion.
When they talk about this cost of $6 billion, which is a number that I don't believe,
This is one of the big issues I think facing.
not only is it going to be more expensive because this is a complicated project, but the cost of finance for fossil fuel projects is really high. And it's going to go up. That's the penalty of fossil fuels now. You have to add a financial penalty because banks are not going to finance it
Global gas prices
in the same way that they used to. And international financial institutions, like the World Bank and the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, EBRD, and EIB, they've announced they're not going to do any fossil fuels anymore. So who's going to finance this thing? On the back of what contract? So all this leads me to the conclusion that this is politicians talking, but that there's no there. This is a project that should not, probably will not happen because it's too complicated, too expensive, and too late in the arc of history.
The funding is not yet assured. It is not unrealistic to finance it, but still we have not found all the necessary resources for that.
Who could finance it?
First of all, for a project of this magnitude, public financing, which could be ensured through the European Union, as you mentioned, this has been already accepted.
The problem with the EastMed is that Greece and Cyprus think that the support of Europe will be definitively so important that it will ensure the success of the project.
According to the European Commission, by the end of 2021, fossil fuel projects will no longer be eligible for European Union funding.
We cannot speak for the participants of the project. So to speculate or to discuss about the feasibility of the project and when it starts to deliver, this is really something for the specific partners who are participating in this project. And it's not the only one. You know that the energy security of the European Union is composed of various projects. So we are not relying only on one project.
I am personally quite skeptical about the EastMed pipeline. Firstly, because it is a political project. And it's a political project that has, as a rationale, indeed, the exclusion of Turkey. Then there's a second reason, which really is economic in nature. This is not an economically, in my view, viable project. I mean, the way in which energy markets have been developing, and particularly so, I would say, over the course of the pandemic, really make the building of a very expensive gas pipeline at a time in which we are talking about a Green Deal, energy transition, in a sense, sort of belong to an age that no longer exists.
I think that in the current post-COVID state, I would not put money on the project being completed. I think there's too much gas, and EastMed would have to compete with the Southern Corridor. The Trans-Adriatic Pipeline TAP just came online as part of TANAP and the rest of the Southern Corridor. Turk Stream is also online. Not to mention, there's now a proliferation of regasification facilities and floating liquefied natural gas facilities that are coming online all over Europe and including the Mediterranean. So there's enough already existing infrastructure. There's enough gas that's been developed. We don't need another pipeline like this necessarily.
Would that natural gas
The East Med pipeline, if you look at it on paper, is actually counter to energy trends that we're seeing today. That's because there's an increased push in the Western world to decarbonize the economy, decouple economic growth from hydrocarbons, and that includes natural gas. Especially when you consider who's the target customer, it's Europe. But Europe just passed the European Green Deal.
We'll stay on course to become the first climate-neutral continent. The European Green Deal is a set of policy initiatives that promote efficient use of resources, with the aim of making Europe the first climate-neutral continent by 2050.
We know, for example, that our current fossil fuel economy has reached its limits. And we know that we have to move on to a new model, and this is why we set out to make the climate goal not only a political aspiration, but also a legal obligation.
Europe is going to reduce its natural gas demand by 25% in the next few years. By 2050, it'll be almost zero. So when you're talking about building one of the longest pipelines ever constructed, and when your main customer is starting to wean itself away from natural gas, gas prices are very depressed because there's a glut, it doesn't seem very economically feasible from where I'm sitting.
For the European Union, what is important is we are not pushing this project, because this is not only about like developing energy projects. This is also about reforming and transforming the economy of the EU, that we consume less energy, that we consume more energy from renewable sources, and that we reduce the levels of CO2. So this is a huge undertaking that is composed of so many elements that one project less or one project more really doesn't play a big role for the overall success of EU's policy.
International Energy Agencies.
Another key actor in the energy arena has warned about the consequences of the irreversible climate change.
Just look at the International Energy Agency, a very conservative global player in the energy sector.
All new fossil fuel projects must be scrapped.
They're very clear on the fact that there is no space after 2021 for any additional infrastructure or dependency on gas.
According to the International Energy Agency.
And I'm not talking about Greenpeace, I'm not talking about any fund of renewables, I'm talking about the International Energy Agency, where they've been supporting fossil fuels for decades. The key question is, do we need such a pipeline? And the answer is clearly no. The construction of such a pipeline cannot be aligned with the European commitments to fight climate change. It's as simple as that. There's no way, except if, as European Union, you accept to build this and let it work for 10 years, which is insane, because it's going to be spent billions there, just for the pipe, but also for the relevant infrastructure that will never going to be paid off. So it's a decision that makes no sense, no matter how you approach it, financially, climate-wise, or I don't know how else you can approach it.
Today is Earth Day.
Climate change mitigation is crucial, not only for the European Union, but also for the United States, with the Biden administration making the issue a top priority.
Today, we are issuing America's first ever International Climate Finance Plan. It lays out specific steps that federal agencies of the United States will take to increase both the quality and quantity of climate financing.
All the world leaders who've joined us, thank you for joining, and John, thank you for putting this together.
Major Global Climate Summit with a call to world leaders.
No nation can solve this crisis on our own, as I know you all fully understand. All of us, and particularly those of us who represent the world's largest economies, we have to step up. We have to move. We have to move quickly to meet these challenges. God bless you all, and I look forward to progress that we can make together today and beyond.
To demonstrate that climate change would be at the top of his agenda. Biden's Earth Day summit.
I think today
in the Biden administration.
That things have changed in the Trump administration.
I would be extremely uncomfortable with the United States supporting this project. Why would we build a fossil fuel pipeline between the East Med and Europe at a time when our entire policy is to support new technology, new developments, and new investments in going green, in going cleaner? So by the time this pipeline is built, we will have spent billions of dollars of taxpayers probably on something that is obsolete. And not only obsolete, but against our collective interest between the United States and Europe.
One of the last attempts to further support the East Med pipeline was the creation of the East Mediterranean Gas Forum.
I met with Tarek El Moula, the Egyptian energy minister, and I offered him to establish together the East Mediterranean Gas Forum that will be located in Cairo.
8 countries in the Southeast Mediterranean are the main participants, while the United States, the European Union and the World Bank Group are permanent observers.
So long as Donald Trump was president of the United States, in the region, what prevailed was a mentality of either or, winners and losers, divides. I mean, that kind of mentality which really underpins the way in which the East Med Gas Forum was configured.
Turkey itself is being explicit in that it wants talks.
The East Med Gas Forum will only have, I would say, both political and economic life in a sustainable manner if a way is found to include Turkey within it.
I think it was President Erdogan said that without Turkey, the East Mediterranean Gas Forum is short of being a serious regional forum, something like that. You can see this as some kind of criticism, but the subtext is one day Turkey must become a member of this forum, and I totally agree.
The amazing thing about Turkey is that it's connected with so many of the biggest issues that the international community faces. Syria, Iraq, Israel, Russia, EU, and ultimately the success of the East Med will come about if Turkey is part of it. Because at the end of the day, it's not about natural gas. This is about regional power, cooperation, and we always have to remember that. This is not just about natural gas molecules.
Turkey itself is being explicit in that it wants talks. And, you know, frankly, the Turkish position from the very beginning was, you know,